Genghis Khan. When you hear that name, you probably think, okay, unstoppable conqueror,
Yeah.
military mastermind, empire builder.
Right, that's the standard picture.
But what if that whole story, his genius even, wasn't just about battles, but a really direct, kind of surprising reaction to his own, well, devastating personal history?
That's exactly the angle Jack Weatherford takes in his book, Genghis Khan, Trauma, Survival, and Unification. It's quite groundbreaking, really.
Yeah.
He argues that Temujin, that's the man who became Genghis Khan, wasn't just a military genius. His strategies, these radical ideas about unity, like his meritocracy, Weatherford says they were direct responses to the betrayals, the trauma of his incredibly brutal childhood.
Direct responses. Okay.
Yeah, that's the real revelation here.
That is a powerful way to frame it. So, okay, our mission then for this deep dive is to trace that path. It seems so unlikely, right? How those really brutal early experiences shaped not just a survivor, but a leader who basically rewrote the rules for power, for unity across a continent. To really get him, I suppose we have to start right at the beginning.
Absolutely, you have to.
So Temujin's born around, 1162? Into a world that's already just soaked in violence.
Extremely violent. Yeah.
And you have to picture this. He's just a boy. His father gets murdered brutally. And then, maybe the worst part, his own tribe just abandons the whole family, leaves them on the Mongolian steppe.
Which is incredibly unforgiving terrain.
It's basically a death sentence, isn't it?
Mhm.
Weatherford really digs into the sheer grit this family needed just to stay alive day to day.
And this period, this early abandonment, it's so crucial because you see the seeds of his later really revolutionary policies being sown right there.
So?
Well, think about his mother. Her resilience was just extraordinary. She herself had been kidnapped, forced into marriage. And now suddenly she's alone with her kids, scavenging for roots, fighting to keep them alive through these terrible winters.
Unimaginable.
It really is.
Yeah.
And those experiences, they gave Temujin incredible resilience, yes, but also this deep, deep mistrust of the traditional kinship bonds. You know, the whole basis of their society.
Right, because his own kin betrayed him.
Exactly. He learned really young that blood ties, they didn't mean loyalty. They didn't mean safety. Not automatically.
Wow. So the core idea of tribal society, kinship, it's broken for him from the get-go. That must have felt, well, revolutionary just thinking that way back then.
Definitely. And beyond just the family's abandonment, Temujin himself faced these personal horrors that, clearly scarred him.
He wasn't just watching his family struggle.
No. He was a direct victim, too. He gets kidnapped himself, enslaved by rival groups. He goes through these humiliations, these life-threatening situations as a child.
As a child.
Yeah, but what's really remarkable, Weatherford points this out, is that even then, even in slavery as a kid, he starts showing that strategic thinking that would, define his future.
Really? Even then?
His escape from captivity, for example. Weatherford describes it as one of the first real signs of that tactical mind at work, turning adversity into, opportunity.
Okay, so the seeds are there early. It's interesting how that personal trauma seems to keep translating into strategy for him.
It's a constant theme. The source material really highlights this pattern, especially around kidnapping. It's almost cyclical.
How do you mean?
Well, his mother's kidnapping shaped his birth, his origins. But then later, it's the kidnapping of his wife, Börte, his first love, that becomes the real trigger.
Ah, right. Börte.
That event ignites his drive to organize, to build alliances, to actually fight back in a structured way. It's this really personal crisis that fuels his transformation from basically an outcast nobody to a leader you had to reckon with.
And crucially, his response to Börte being taken, it wasn't just him going off alone on some revenge mission, was it?
No, not at all. That's a key point Weatherford makes. It forced him into thinking strategically about relationships, about power. This is where he builds those really vital alliances with Jamuka, his childhood friend Aranda, and with the influential Van Han.
Right. Those early alliances were critical.
Absolutely. And that mission, rescuing Börte, driven purely by personal loyalty, it ends up being his first real military campaign. It's the very start of his rise.
It all stems from that personal crisis.
It seems so. And you see how these dynamics, loyalty, betrayal, especially among family, friends, tribal leaders, they just constantly shape his view of the world.
And his later actions.
Directly. His experiences directly inform those groundbreaking decisions later on, like outlawing the kidnapping and selling of women.
Which must have been a huge deal.
Oh, massive. It wasn't just some, moral rule he plucked out of thin air. It was him trying to dismantle the very system, the cycle of violence and feuding between tribes that had caused so much chaos in his own life. He saw it as a root cause.
So he's trying to fix the system that broke his own life.
In a way, yes. Creating stability by tackling the source of the instability he knew firsthand.
We should probably touch on the moral complexity too, though. Weatherford's book doesn't ignore the darker stuff, right? Like the murder of his half-brother.
No, it doesn't shy away from it. But it puts it in context. It's not presented as just, random violence.
What's the context then?
It's shown as a response to abuse within the family unit, a really desperate situation over scarce resources, and maybe a symbol of his willingness, even then, to do whatever it took to protect himself and his immediate family. It's harsh, but it reflects the brutality of that world.
Right. It's a tough thing to grapple with. So when we pull all these early brutal experiences together, what does it really tell us about his legacy? Not just the conqueror, but the leader.
Well, I think the main takeaway from Weatherford is this. Genghis Khan's rise. It wasn't inevitable, not even close.
Okay.
It was forged. Forged through just relentless personal trauma, constant hardship, and this incredible, almost uncanny ability to adapt, to learn, and crucially, to unite these groups that had always been fighting each other.
So it's more than just conquest.
Much more. His story becomes this deeply human story of survival, of transformation, set against this incredibly unstable, violent backdrop. And if you zoom out, look at the big picture. It's just an amazing case study in turning profound adversity into opportunity on a truly epic scale.
Yeah, it really is striking when you think about it like that. How Temujin's early life, the abandonment, the kidnappings, just the constant threat of death, how that was the crucible that forged Genghis Khan.
Exactly.
It definitely recontextualizes him. Beneath the legend, the conqueror, there's this survivor driven by this incredibly personal history.
And maybe that leaves us with a final thought, something for you to mull over. Think about this. Here's a man shaped by repeated betrayals, often from his own kin, his own blood.
Right.
And what does he do? He chooses to build his power, his alliances, based on merit, based on earned loyalty, completely breaking from those ancient blood-based traditions.
A total rewrite of the rules.
Completely. So what can we maybe learn about leadership, about building unity, especially enduring unity, when it comes from that kind of foundation, from deep personal hardship and this willingness to just fundamentally change the rules of the world around you?
That's definitely something to think about. We really encourage you to continue your own deep dive into this history. It's fascinating stuff.